Hey, welcome, folks. It's February 1st. It's just after 4 o'clock. And here is the dude in the housecoat. Welcome you to another fine show. This is a hobby. I do this for my own fun and entertainment. Hopefully, to get an audience here and such and all that wonderful BS. I do like to say and remind everybody again that yes, my name is the dude in the housecoat. I like to be called Justice Truth online. My first name is Justin. That's all you really need to know. But I encourage you all to read more in your lives. I am not the arbitrator of truth. I am just a dude in a housecoat who likes to read a lot. And yes. Anyways, I want to start off with a funny little story that happened a couple of days ago. Let's start off with some humor because, well, I want to be a little bit more funny, and this is a funny story. The other day, I was going out to take out my garbage to the curb. It snowed some, and with all the animals in my community of Vanderhoof, and that's from crows to my cats to dogs in the neighborhood to the deer. Anyway, there was a lot of tracks around my yard and driveway, which was kind of neat because I do like seeing the imprints of the crow's feet. We feed our crows, by the way, that live with us. Not really with us, but, they hang out so they get leftover popcorn, old bread, stuff like that. And then I ask them not to shit on my car, but they still shit on my car. Anyway, that's not the funny part. The funny part is that because of all the animal tracks, I see a bunch of snow that's brushed up together on my driveway. Kind of looks like feathers, kind of looks like feet did all this, and I'm like, what the heck is this kind of exciting? I got my dog with me, telling my dog not to go near it, right? And like go back to the house and grab Danica and say, hey, honey, you got to come out here and look at this. This is weird. It's like, I don't know what to make of it. It looks like track, looks like the birds did something, And my wife comes out, Danica, and she comes with me and we go look at this, examine this pile of a little bit of snow. It turns out it's our own cat who decided to take a shit in the freshly piled snow and kind of cover it up with his paws. But like I said, there was deer tracks, there was footprints from the crows all around it, and I've seen the crows do some weird things in the snow with their feathers and all that. But needless to say, I got my wife to come outside to look at a pile of cat shit on my driveway. Yes, that's funny, it is humorous, but you know what? Life's full of surprises, and enjoy the moments when you have them. I look like a bit of a fool in a way, whatever, because, whoa, this is weird, but it was weird. And all I could say is that I liked it, laughed, my wife laughed, and, told my mother and all those things. And my dad, I guess, will be hearing about it for the first time today. Been trying to call you, Dad. Anyways, hope to get in touch with you soon. I will be sending you this video ASAP when I am done. Yes, folks, there's a little humor for you and everything else and stuff like that. You remember how I like to start the show by mentioning the scone? It's lit for people who are, missing a loved one or, looking for inspiration, need a light, whatever. The candle is lit for everyone that, and for all the things I've been saying for all these shows. But today it's going to be lit especially for Sean Hartman, the young man would have been 22 today. So it's been a long time since Sean Hartman has passed away, and his father, Dan, has launched a lawsuit. This is the update on that, folks. Health Canada is basically demanding a bunch of money from Dan Hartman, Sean Hartman's father, to proceed with this class action lawsuit for the wrongful death of his child from the vaccine. Yes, folks, and you heard that correct. A gentleman within Canada is challenging Health Canada and I guess the makers of the vaccine to a lawsuit for his child's death. Our government and our so-called medical system has stated in the autopsy that they could not determine the cause of death. Mr. Hartman basically went and got a pathologist from the United States to basically look at some stuff from Sean Hartman's autopsy. I'm not going to go into great details other than to say that this doctor in the States has stated that spike proteins in a gland in the brain, which may be the pineal gland or another one. Like I said, I'm trying to go a bit from memory here, but yes, is filled with spike proteins. The child died about a month after receiving the vaccine, young, healthy adult. Very nice child from all the videos and stuff that Mr. Hartman has produced to show the world, so to speak, and all that. I am with Sean Hartman and Dan Hartman and his family and all the other people who have been misled by the vaccine and all that, folks. I mean, it may have helped some, but it hurt a lot of people and has changed a lot with people. Cancer is on the rise, turbo cancers, folks, and people are dying left, right, and center. All-time mortality deaths within Canada are on the increase. Governments have hidden these data for a very long time, and they have finally started to come out with some. Fellow I follow on X, old Twitter, basically whatever you want to call it, I'll call it X. He is a engineer. His name's Marty up north. He loves going through government files. He's retired now, so he's got a lot of time on his hands, and he explains things well. If you are on X Twitter, I highly recommend following Marty up north. He is an Albertan, and he is a very smart man. I like him. You know, may not agree with 100% of what he has to say, but he is a well-spoken person, and who can you honestly agree with 100% of the time? In fact, I think a lot of us still argue with God, and, you know, he is supposed to be the supreme being and all-knowing, right? Anyway, enough of that little part there, but again, the candle and scone is lit for Sean Hartman, Dan Hartman's child, who was tragically taken away from the vaccine injury. If you have not seen any other videos of Sean's child as he shared a tribute for his son who passed away, you will really like this young man. I don't really want to say he was coerced to take the jab, but he was encouraged to take the jab, being told it was safe and effective. He went behind his parents' back, basically, to get the jab, and the child died. Sad to say. But anyways, folks, I know I don't want to get too doom and gloomy, kind of why I started off the show with a bit of a joke there and a bit of a telling story with some humor and stuff like that, you know. And also, let's just go quickly to the awesome story. Yes, I've been following that, and I know I said a while back I don't want to talk more about it because it was heavy on everybody's mind within this country. If you don't know the ostrich story, oh man, I don't really want to dive down that rabbit hole for you, other than to say that the recent protests that have been happening across this country, which you'll not see on mainstream media, is protests against Carney and his leadership. Now, Dre Humphrey from Rebel News caught a young girl who was protesting, and Dre kindly asked the girl why she was there, and she says, "I'm here because Carney killed the ostriches." Now, young child and all that, but it was cute, but she's on point and stuff. So our government wasted over $7 million to kill these ostriches, folks, and yet in Surrey, people are being shot at, in Surrey, BC, extortion crime and everything else, where the citizens and residents of this community are asking Gary, the safety minister, who wants to take guns away from lawful gun owners, they want PALs expedited. In other words, they want their possession and acquisition license for protection, which is not something you are really granted when you apply for a license to acquire a firearm. It's not how it works, but they asking for it. It's a rare case in Canada that you may get a gun for your personal self-protection, whether that might be a security guard, so to speak, private investigator, or if your life is in true immediate danger, they do kind of grant those exemptions. And being a free miner and a Rockhound Explorer, if I get a gold claim, apparently, if I do my paperwork right, I may be able to pack and carry on my own gold claim for protection. Now, my PAL has expired, and I have to go through many hoops to get that renewed. I really wish I would have done it sooner. I did not think it would be such a hassle, but my God, it's worse than reapplying. Anyways, yes, the ostrich story, folks. A little bit update there. The other thing I'd like to mention too is Daisy Media has went back out to the farm, and all the waste that was left over from CIFA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the surveillance equipment that the people had to keep track of their own ostriches that they can monitor safely from their home, basically, and their farm, so to speak, because crime and actual people have tried taking out these ostriches before the ostrich story even became a thing. So the CFIA has destroyed cameras, left a huge mess, plus biohazard mess. They never did clean it up. Remember, I told you before, the RTMP were pitching hay for CIFA in no painter suit, so to speak. They look like a human marshmallow. The cops did not. They shot all these bullets, over 1,000 rounds, and I do believe DC is actually taking a metal detector, and they're going to go try and find out what calibers were actually used in the killing of the ostriches. So I just wanted to do a brief update there on that and all those wonderful things. After all, I don't think the ostriches deserve to die, because if they continuously fell and continuously got sick, I would say call them. But that wasn't the case, and also, I would like to say similar stories are going over in Europe of killing cows with lumpy skin disease. Yes, yeah, go check that out. You'll have to search and find it. Remember, if you really want to find things easy, I trust X, I trust Grok. I like the search bar, upper right corner. Just type in what you want to look for, such as lumpy cow disease in France, and you will end up probably at the story of the cows that are being killed because one, I think, got lumpy disease. If my memory serves me correct, and I like saying that a lot because, after all, I'm just a dude in a housecoat who likes to read, and our mainstream media who just proudly announced, and the video is trying to be scrubbed at this moment, is the CPAC meeting and gathering of all the media personalities, so to speak. And they were at a convention. Mark Carney spoke, and they even said, Mark Carney, we will always have your back because you have ours. The media is not supposed to be in bed with the government, folks. That was the whole purpose of newspapers being separated from the government, is because the government is going to be always exposed by the newspaper. Now, the world is a little different than when I first grew up, but yes, people in journalism did not associate or lick boots of the politicians. Those things are like in communist China and other places, and it should not be here in Canada, but slowly, maturely, we are seeing the rise of that within our great nation. Also, a couple other things we can talk about, is stuff like that is, I just want to make a couple of comments. One is a shout out to Mark Nixon for actually getting back to me from X. He's a very popular X personality, YouTube channel, very well informed, does his show very well. He was going to have a guest on there named Wyatt. I kind of mentioned on his account that, Wyatt is not that great of a person, in my opinion. Why don't you ask him about the implosion of the One BC party? Since he started in with that group, that party imploded. I don't want to elaborate or anything much more. It is not my fight. It's just that everything that I've heard, and Wyatt apparently doesn't like to talk about it too much, but he responded to me today, and I want to give Wyatt Claypool a shout out for that. Chances of him seeing my show will be slim and none, but nonetheless, because I like to think I'm a decent person and I want to extend pleasantries and everything else. Thank you for reaching out and answering my questions, even though it wasn't a satisfactory answer. You don't owe me anything, Wyatt, but thank you for answering. Unlike Ezra Levant, who blocked me for asking where the money went for the raising of the money for Coots 4. Now that the Emergency Use Act, again, has been deemed unconstitutional and unlawful by the government, where is Ezra on that? In fact, it took almost a long time for somebody within the government to say anything. And I want to say Andrew Lawton, the man who spoke up in the House of Commons regarding the unlawfulness and unconstitutional the Emergency Use Act was, considering at the time Andrew Lawton was with True North News, his own media company, before he became an MP, was pepper sprayed, folks, during the convoy days. Now, Andrew Lawton is a big man, and I don't think he has a very mean bone or a rebellious bone in his body to poke the bear, so to speak. He'll speak with the bear, but I don't think he'll poke the bear, if you know what I mean. Anyways, he spoke up about it almost 10 days or guaranteed a week since the announcement. Now, I do know the Emergency Use Act ruling, apparently, according to Jolie, is going to be appealed again by our government. This will be the third time then the government will appeal the government or the courts on their decision to invoke the Emergency Use Act. They broke the law. End of the story. In reality, our Governor General should be telling Mark Carney and the Liberal Party, you guys screwed up, and he should, or she should, really dissolve Parliament just on that if they're not willing to act on it. But the GG, the Liberals, and even the royalty within England, our King Charles, folks, we're still under a monarchy. We're still a Westminster-style governance. We may have votes, folks, but the king still rules. And if you followed my channel, you will know that I've mentioned these things from videos that I have watched, who I encouraged you to watch. Yes, I don't put things up there and all that, but you know what, folks? If you really are interested in something that I said and couldn't quite catch what I said, just rewind the video and play it again and stuff. If you really want me to do that, then put it in the comments, like it, tell me and say, hey, Justin, could you please put up some more information so that we can look further into it ourselves. Well, folks, I will try and do that down the road if I get responses for that. But I like doing the shows the way I do it because many people are doing these shows with their graphs and infos and everything else. And now with the rise of AI, almost everything is becoming a little too slick, a little too personal. You look at my backdrop, you look at me, I'm just a dude in a housecoat with Bell's palsy trying to talk to you. Hence, I wear the sunglasses, there's the glare from the lights. And plus, I don't like how my eyes sometimes look. And I also want to try and make it look like I'm looking at the camera all the time without actually looking at the camera. Right? Anyways, I know I like to talk and everything else, but I do want to say again, thank you, Wyatt Claypool, for actually responding. It wasn't really the answer I was looking for from you. I don't think you're going to actually tell me in a post on X, but like I told Mark Nixon and yourself and Mario from the North, you guys are all welcome for coffee anytime here in Vanderhoof, British Columbia. And yes, folks, let's go talk about the leadership race because I mentioned Mark Nixon's name. This weekend, the CPC party had a review of Pierre's leadership. As expected, Pierre won in a landslide. The only thing that I would say about the whole convention that was slightly disheartening for me was the allowing of non-Canadian citizens, basically, to vote in a leadership race of the Conservative Party. They are now in line with the likes of the Liberal Party, allowing people that are not permanent residents, basically, of this country to vote. What basically that means, people, everybody from Albania to New Zealand, basically, if they have a membership card into the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, like the Liberal Party of Canada, they will get a right to vote. They don't get a right to vote in the actual election that's within Canada, but that'll change down the road too. Tim Uppel was basically asked why he voted for it, and he said it was the status quo. It's not the status quo. They just changed it so that non-citizens can vote. And that's disturbing. The other thing is with the child gender issue, and I really wish the Pierre and the CPC party would just step on the gas because, my goodness, the people that are switching genders are so far down the totem pole in the hierarchy of population groups, and I really hate to put it that way. There are more important people that need help than somebody deciding to go from a innie to an outie or whatever. I know I'm being playing with words here, but I'm not trying to trigger YouTube to suppress my video. There are certain things you can't talk about and certain things you can't talk about, apparently, and I'm not trying to be a rude jerk. I am just a dude in a housecoat who enjoys reading and researching. In fact, I've reached out to the transgender community and all those, and just to get some answers so I have a better understanding. Just so you know, folks, I'm not a jerk, just like with the Indian stuff and everything else, whether it's India, the 7-Eleven Indians, or whether it is my own indigenous group, the casino Indians, a little humor there. I'm not trying to be rude or jerky. It's just the way I speak. And if you don't like it, well, there's the channel. You can change it. It don't matter. You can tell me in the comments. I could not care less. I am just telling you what I am seeing and hearing. And back to that issue of the people wanting to switch teams, especially at a very, very young age. No political party should be actually dealing with these issues because we have issue upon issue upon issue in this country, whether it's the MAID program. That is another word, not the maid that cleans up your house, folks, but the MAID program that is used within Canada. I have been informed that if I talk too much about it online, whether on video format or on X, my views will be suppressed and my posts will be suppressed because I'm talking about a controversial subject. There are so many much more issues. MAID, for example, I know I'm talking about it, but it bugs me because of the original wording back in the day that was supposed to be meant for people who are truly dying and have a sound mind and wish to die may be granted that privilege of an early death through the MAID program. Now, fast forward almost 20 plus years, so to speak, we're allowing people to die for loneliness. We are allowing people to die from diabetes. We are allowing people just to die if your partner is tired of caring for you. Where is this country going? Honestly, I mean, it used to be a caring group of people, and now we just wish people death, It's like I had a comment with Garnet Genus on X. He was saying that the people in the Dominion Society are low IQ considering our history within Canada. Now, I will say what I will say here is that our history is rich, but our history in Canada is mostly European-centric. Yes, it is. There is the pockets of people that have come here throughout the ages in groups, so to speak, not so much like today, where it seems like it's a train car after train car after train car of third world invaders, and we're not getting the good people that truly are needed within this country, which are doctors and engineers. We do not need Uber Eats drivers. We do not need people working in the subway industry when we have so many youth and everything else unemployed. Yes, folks, it is crazy that way, and I'm not trying to be rude, ignorant, in that I understand people wanting to come here for a better life. All the power to you, but you've been sold a lie when you came here, because holy smokes, this country is getting expensive, folks. Expensive. And not to mention the corruption that's within the immigration system. The amount of people online and have offices to try and help you come into this country is amazing. It is a cottage industry, and they charge a lot. And I'm also hearing stories of the people that are coming here to being exploited, and I hate it. We are going to take your passport. We are going to pay you less than minimum wage. Here is your cubby hole. This is where you get to live, and you expected to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those stories are happening out there. It's almost like the trucker stories as well, folks, with all these new people coming here, getting very little training to drive a humongous vehicle, folks, and it's dangerous, and they're thinking they're getting away with it. And I don't really want to dive around too much into the whole thing about the driving schools that are cheating the system and the companies that are skirting the laws, the rules, and safety, folks. I have seen big rigs with wheels missing, literally driving down the highway. Yes, you can't make that up. Vehicles making U-turns where they shouldn't be making U-turns, because if they were properly trained, they would realize that, oops, if you missed an exit, you have to drive to the proper turnoff for you to actually make your turn to go back the other direction for your large ass 18-wheeler. And if you don't follow those rules, you're going to impede traffic, which has happened over and over and over and over again. Seen it time and time and time again. It is not racist. It is fraudulent. It's just like what's going on in Minnesota and other states regarding daycare center and healthcare center. It's fraud. It doesn't matter who's running it. It doesn't matter the race of the people at all. If you're stealing taxpayers' money as a taxpayer, I want it back. Just like Dennis Leary said on CNN, Mr. Wonderful, right? The Canadian billionaire guy said, how is it wrong, me as a taxpayer, wanting my money back that was stolen? How is it racist? How is it wrong? It's my money as a taxpayer. It's your money too, folks, and you should speak up. And that's another thing that I like to talk about on my show is you, the viewer that are currently listening to me. Please use the search bar. Please pick up a book. I, in fact, have a book coming from the library. I am currently waiting for it. It is Gad Sad's book. Really wish it was the new one, but I was told the library won't get that book for another 6 months. Is Suicidal Empathy, his latest book, and I'm trying to remember the name of his book that I want to also read. It's his last book that he wrote. I'll just leave it at that. Me and my fun brain here. Yes, folks, it's a hobby. I'm not a professional. If you come to me and I told you something, I hope you look it up, because isn't that what we're supposed to do, folks, is read, research. We have been told for years to really, trust your instinct, dig a little deeper, and now we're being told to shut up and the science is settled. Well, look how far that got us, folks. Look where it got us. Holy smokes, it's almost 26 minutes here. I just want to maybe wrap it up here fairly soon. I kind of covered everything that I kind of wanted to talk about in this episode. I also want to say that, what else is on my mind and all that, and it's bugging the crap out of me. Maybe it's the Epstein files, it's not a wild one. I really do like the silver stuff that's going on, the precious metal commodity. I got some silver, not a whole bunch. I really wish I had enough to make a difference in my life. I do have some. It can make a difference, but I would love a real difference in my life. Maybe my old coins, well, if I melt them down, I might get a few extra ounces out of that. But as a coin collector, if people are currently melting your coins down, and I happen to have the same coin you just melted, well, my coin just went up in value because there's less. So I think I may hang on to those coins. As far as the silver bars that I have, that I do not actually have an official thing for, it looks like I might have to go to the pawn shop to sell. I'll get about $80 less than the spot price. 80%, I'll get 80% of the spot price versus the full value. Pawn shop says we have ways to test it. Don't worry about paperwork or whatever, anything else like that, and get paid cash, no tax receipt. That is a sweet thing. If you have some silver, folks, and you need some money, I highly recommend a pawn shop if you want, or go find a dealer, somebody that's willing to buy it for you. I will say this, from my understanding in coin shops, that there's a lot of people trying to sell. Very few are buying, and in fact, the price dropped the other day, which was 30% or something like that, or $30 an ounce, from the time people left their house to go to the coin dealer saying, I would like to sell it for this much, and they're like, nope, sorry, price drop. In that quick of time, folks. Something is amiss in our financial system, much like the old 2008 financial crisis and everything else. Be prepared for shock, folks. I am truly saying this, and I'll be prepared for worse shock for Canada. If you are a Mark Carney supporter and your elbows are still up, I highly recommend getting some 2x4s to place under there, because it's got to be hard to hold them up there that long for this long. Mark Carney is not here for Canada. I read his book Values and listening to him speak. And in fact, today there's an old video that asked him why he hasn't considered running for the leadership party of the Liberals. at that time, and he says, why would I want to join a clown show? Yes, folks, he said that. It's an old video. You'll have to look it up yourself. Like I said, I'm not going to try and show you. But if you guys want me to start putting some stuff up, please let me know, and I'll work on it. Other than that, I like how I'm doing the show. I don't want to be too fancy. I don't want to be too technical. Just want to blab away while you listen. All you have to do really is set the phone down and listen to me. You don't have to really look at me while I talk. You can do your dishes, fold your clothes, do whatever, go for a jog, pet your dog. I don't care. But I will tell you one thing. I like to think I'm honest. I like to think I'm truthful. And I like to think that I do some research. If I'm wrong on anything, people, please leave it in the comments. Let me know. That's all I can say. Like I said, this is a hobby. This is for fun. I'm trying not to be too serious, and I'm not trying to be overwhelming with you at all, other than to say positive vibes to all of you folks out there who paid attention and stayed this long at 30-minute mark. And I also like to say, like how I end my shows all the time, remember the scone. It's lit for somebody. Today it's Sean Hartman. And it's lit for whatever you may in your own mind think it may be lit for. I want to remind my dad, I just saw that old photo you sent me in the email of your bro and yourself. Yeah, time flies, doesn't it, Dad? And I sure do miss Pete, and I miss you too. Also, folks, if you have not been to an SPCA, please go at least once in your life. You don't have to adopt, but you may find a furball, or you may even donate a couple of dollars to such a worthwhile endeavor. So thank you guys. It's 30 minutes. That's what I try and want to keep my shows around. And yes, take care.